Living as a neglected twin, I watched my brother thrive while I felt invisible. "You need to be the main character," he said, oblivious to my struggles. "After a family tragedy, I found my voice but realized my pain was dismissed. Can I finally break free from the shadows?" Summary: some challenges I encountered over the past couple of years and my thoughts during that period. Context: I 24-year-old male and the elder twin, my brother, is 4 minutes younger, and I have one older sister 4 years older. I live with my brother in a metropolitan city while my sister resides about 15 kilometers away from our house. Our parents live in our hometown, far from the city. I am sharing this via an anonymous account since my brother is also on Reddit. This is a true account of what transpired over the last 2 to 3 years. In November 2023, while I was living in the city, my sister was working from home in our hometown with our parents. At that time, she had recently ended a relationship, and our parents were pressuring her to marry someone else, not in an extreme manner, just reminding her that she was getting older. I was celebrating a festival with some friends in the city. I had not informed my parents that I consume alcohol, so I limited my communication with them that day to avoid revealing this. I was quite drunk. Essentially, I was just trying to enjoy myself. The next day, I learned that my sister had attempted to harm herself due to her situation. I felt terrible for not being there when she needed me, so my brother and I immediately booked a flight and traveled back home. The following day, we brought her back to the city with us, and I promised myself I would be responsible and support her. Fortunately, she improved in the coming months. However, during the festival when I drank excessively, as I was just a kid, I revealed some secrets or truths to random strangers which upset my brother and his friends, who were not really my friends. To provide some background, after moving to the city, most of my college friends were not around, so I did not have any friends here, whereas my brother had many college friends in the city. We also shared an apartment with 2 of his friends, the same individuals who were upset with me over the disclosed secrets. This detail will become relevant later. In the following months, I made an effort to be there for my sister and met her on weekends despite having a heavy workload. On one such weekend, when I could not meet her due to my brother's friends, I felt very distressed and ended up arguing with them. Instead of understanding my anger, my brother sided with his friends out of fear of losing them. He essentially tried to de-escalate the situation by pleading with me not to say or do anything. I was considering moving out and living elsewhere, possibly with my sister. Fast forward to April 2024, my sister was diagnosed with dengue fever. She was living independently near her office and I was working remotely at that time. My job was quite dreadful, the manager was harsh and demanded a lot of work. I had no other job opportunities, so I complied without the chance to upskill, leaving me stuck. My brother worked for a good company and out of sympathy referred me there. Fortunately, I was selected for the position. After I resigned from my old job, I learned about my sister's condition, so I requested 3 to 4 days off from my cruel manager to be there for her. Eventually, she required hospitalization. I felt very helpless witnessing her condition, but thankfully she overcame it. I did not ask my brother for help at the hospital since he claimed he had a lot of work. I accepted this. After she was discharged, I was relieved and everything seemed to be going well. However, the next Monday, I discovered my office laptop was locked out, and I learned that the manager had terminated my 2-month notice period, leaving me without pay for those 2 months. Later, a friend to whom I recounted the incident expressed sympathy and acknowledged how difficult it must have been for me. I did not fully understand his sentiment as I struggled with emotions. There is an additional story to share. In early April, one of my flatmates, a friend of my brother, was going to Japan for work and invited us to join him. I really wanted to go, but my financial situation was not great due to my poor job and the impromptu flights I booked the previous November, so I declined his invitation. My brother was very angry with me for this, especially since April is peak season for travel to Japan. He was upset because he assumed I had some undisclosed reason for refusing the trip. I genuinely could not afford it, but he held this against me. When I was at the hospital with my sister, he ignored me, although I was unaware that his anger stemmed from this situation. Essentially, he was pursuing dates during this time and lost his virginity while I was in a helpless state trying to maintain a positive attitude in the hospital. He told me he was busy with work. A few weeks later, when I returned, he eventually mentioned this to me and I was unsure how to respond. I felt sadness because he had lied to me. It was not that I required his presence in the hospital, but at least he should not have concealed the truth. He explained that he did not want to repeat the story to everyone, including friends, and preferred to share it with them all at once. I felt hurt that I did not deserve the truth in his eyes. Although I was upset, I felt powerless to change the situation. He often withheld information from me, opting to wait until his friends were present before sharing. Gradually, I improved, but I still did not feel ready to date as I believed I needed to support my family. Fast forward to November 2024, I was feeling down, reflecting on the last festival and my absence from my sister. Both my brother and I were employed at the same company. He referred me, and I secured the job, and they hosted a party for that festival. While there, I could not enjoy myself due to my sadness. Some colleagues and my brother were having fun, and after the party, they suggested going to a club. Although I was not in the mood, I complied. Once at the club, everyone was dancing and enjoying themselves, but I was just standing on the side drinking. Naturally, alcohol intensified my sadness, and I ignored everything around me. A girl approached me, and I responded rudely, ignoring her. After the club closed, I informed my brother, who immediately sought out the girl to speak with her. Since we are twins, we look almost identical, and it appeared they were a good match. I broke down under the weight of my sadness and could not handle it any longer, so I left the club and returned home. My brother was frustrated with me for leaving, as he had to abandon his conversation with her. I was shocked that he seemed unconcerned about me, focusing solely on himself. I felt it was pointless to share anything with him and continued with my life. I began to consider that having someone to talk to or confide in might be beneficial, so I installed the Hinge dating app. Initially, it seemed promising, with 2 to 3 matches each week. However, in the first week of December, my grandfather passed away. He had called me in October 2024, the last time I spoke with him, and requested that I come home for the festival. I declined, not wanting my sister to undergo trauma. Now I came to realize that I never met him again and failed to fulfill his wish. The following 2 weeks were excruciating. As the eldest son, I had to participate in all the rituals and support my father, who was deeply hurt. It was incredibly challenging, yet we managed to get through it. Meanwhile, my brother was engaged with the girl he was dating, having someone with whom to share his feelings, while I had no opportunity to express my own emotions. After some time, I returned to the city and resumed going to the office. I yearned for someone to listen to me, but I was banned from Hinge in the first week of January. It hurt deeply that when I was finally serious about dating, I was cut off from the only avenue I knew. I felt shattered but refused to quit. I tried other apps, but they were ineffective for me. My brother, on the other hand, was deeply invested in that girl, and he was rarely available to listen to me. I later learned that he did not invite me to any clubs or parties because he thought it would be painful for me to attend alone. However, being ignored hurt me more than anything. He could have at least asked me, and if I had declined, that would have been fine. But by not even asking, he excluded me. For 2 consecutive months, I had no one with whom to confide, and no one inquired about my well-being, even as I tried to support everyone else. I started journaling because I had many things I wanted to express. I began focusing more on exercising and reading, eliminating anything that provided me with small doses of dopamine, logging out of Instagram, and discontinuing masturbation. My primary goal was to escape my misery. Eventually, I learned that the girl had broken up with my brother, and I was there for him during his period of grief, offering emotional support. I advised him based on what had worked for me, journaling, reading, etc., in an effort to help him. However, he installed Hinge, received numerous likes and matches, and went out on a date within a week. I felt it was unjust that I lacked the courage to discuss my own problems, yet I listened to his and provided suggestions and support. For about 3 weeks, I felt ignored and powerless to change the situation. One day, after his new girlfriend blocked him, he came to me for help. I assisted him by encouraging him to take time to recover from his ex-girlfriend, but he did not heed my advice and remained very down. Simultaneously, my sister faced some challenges in her dating life. At that point, everyone around me, my brother, his friends, and my sister, was discussing dating, while I felt I had nothing to contribute, so I often remained silent. Even when someone asked how I was doing, my brother would interject, expressing how unfair life was to me and starting to talk about his own experiences. I felt helpless, and the silence weighed more heavily on me than anything else. I longed to shout and cry, but instead I just stood there, smiling hopelessly. Then I received a message from a college friend inquiring about how I was doing. I could not contain myself and called him. We spoke for 4 hours, during which he listened to everything I had experienced over the past 6 months or so, provided understanding, and encouraged me that I could overcome this. I am grateful for friends like him. Eventually, I found the courage to confront my brother and expressed how he had ignored me for the last 6 months when I was at my lowest point without support. He explained that he had acted this way because he did not want to hurt me. For him, his dating life was the most important matter at that time, and he would have preferred to avoid discussing it altogether. I told him that while his reasoning might be valid, what hurt more was being excluded from conversations and not being invited to join him for outings or parties. Another issue that made me feel alienated was that whenever I attended parties, he informed others that I disclosed secrets when I was drunk, claiming it was better for everyone if I did not drink. This reputation was off-putting for me, as I felt I was viewed as irresponsible and careless when intoxicated. As a result, I frequently either skipped events or refrained from drinking. It hurt to know he was the one disseminating this information, despite the fact that I had made a single mistake, the incident in November 2023, and had made an effort to avoid repeating it. Whenever I attempted to engage in conversations, something derogatory about me would come up, and I felt like an utter fool for even trying. He shared private videos of me attempting to smoke a cigarette and acting silly, expecting me to remain silent. When I confronted him the next day, after he repeated this behavior and shared my clips on WhatsApp, he claimed that he had been drunk and did not realize it would hurt me. I did not receive such leniency when I made a mistake. I was immediately blamed and deemed responsible for my actions. Navigating conversations became increasingly challenging and my self-esteem plummeted. Whenever I expressed this to him, he stated that he was merely trying to be the central character in his life and did not comprehend how much his actions affected me. He assured me that he would not repeat this behavior, but at this point I am too exhausted to rely on him. Occasionally I yearn to escape, but what holds me back is the unanswered questions. Whenever I push too hard, people tend to distance themselves, including my brother, who told me that referring me to his company had been a mistake. This comment deeply hurts, but I am determined to turn my situation around. I recognize that everyone seeks to define their life and strives to be the protagonist, but I do not wish to be a mere supporting character in my own life. Expecting that I have no issues because you never provided me with a safe space to express them is an unfair judgment, and assuming my life is sorted out is incorrect. Hearing that my problems are insignificant compared to those of others is not what I wanted to hear. I still have to navigate my life and confront my difficulties, not anyone else's. I am not defeated, and perhaps this will be the last time I allow anyone to walk over me. Yet, I will continue to assist others because I do not want anyone to endure what I have experienced. Story 2. Ignored by my friends for months, I stumbled upon a group chat named after me with embarrassing photos. "Why do you keep hanging out with us? We hate you," they shouted at a party while I tried to make sense of it all. "Can I mend these broken ties before graduation?" My title is a bit simplified. However, I want to inform you that this is a lengthy read as it contains a lot of details. For context, I am a senior in high school, and my friends have completely ignored or severed ties with me for the past 6 months or so. I do not really care about their absence specifically, as I only have about 2 months left with them until graduation, but I want to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. During high school, I have had the same group of friends for nearly the entire time. Unlike almost all of them, I also have many friends outside this group, which might be relevant later. We also have an adjacent group of girls with whom we hang out on weekends, but who we do not really interact with outside that time. I have been genuinely good friends with these guys for about 3 years. I invited a couple of them into the group and have taken a few of them on trips. However, I tend to avoid conflict or arguments by laughing them off, which might not be the best approach. To begin, around the end of last year, my friends and I had a small party or get-together. Towards the end, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. I was not in my right mind, if you understand what I mean, and neither were the others. One of these guys, whom I have known my entire life and who was practically my best friend, started talking about me and my family. He said some really messed up things and then called me a coward when I refused to fight him. I told him I did not want to because he was my friend. He came over and pushed me, I pushed him back, he punched me, and then I punched him back. I immediately called an Uber and left. A few weeks later, I unfortunately lost a game. I will not specify what because if these guys see this, it will be pretty obvious it is me, and had to face a punishment that the winners got to decide. They assigned me something that would reflect very poorly on me and could potentially jeopardize my acceptance into college. I said no and asked for something easier, preferably one that would not affect my future. They told me to stop being a coward and to accept the punishment. They also decided that I would not be allowed to attend any hangouts or parties until I completed the punishment. I assumed they were joking. However, I was not invited anywhere for 3 months. If I reached out to them online, I would be left on read, ignored, or responded to with hostility and told that I had to complete my impossible punishment. They would not even speak to me at school without bringing this up, and I began to notice they would not interact with me in person either. I was quite upset about this, especially because while I have other friends, no one really does anything outside of school. It is just this group, so I feel somewhat trapped. At one point, I could not sleep because I was worried about this situation and whether it would resolve, and more importantly, being completely ignored by guys I had considered my best friends just a couple of months earlier. There were a few instances where I would learn about a get-together or party, ask to attend, and be told that I could not. 2 of the girls in this group felt sympathetic and tried to ensure I was invited, but these guys would not budge, even claiming, "We figured you would not want him here." Eventually, I was invited to a party thrown by one of these girls, and after that, things seemed to settle down. I was invited to events, even if I had to learn about the plans by listening to these guys talk about them or by reaching out after the hangout had already begun. However, at one of these parties, my friend opened his phone and I saw a group chat notification from a group chat named after me. Everyone was in it, both guys and girls. I was fairly devastated. I did not let on that I knew, but over the following week or so, I observed people messaging in it. We had a group chat previously with the same individuals, but it had become inactive since I stopped receiving invitations. In the past couple of weeks since noticing this, I have picked up on some things. They all plan events within this group chat, which is why I never hear about anything, and more frustratingly, the background photo of this group chat features an unflattering image of my face taken at an awkward moment when I was caught blinking and turning my head. Long story short, it does not capture me well. Then, yesterday, we all gathered, and I saw that the photo had changed to one of me passed out on a couch. Back to the story, things went as smoothly as they could until a couple of weeks ago. I went to the usual hangout spot, a good friend's house who is part of this group and probably the only one who has not treated me poorly. We were just having fun. Around midnight, we were all pretty intoxicated and sitting on the couch when one of these guys stood up in front of us and started yelling at me. The guy who punched me that I mentioned earlier also joined in. He shouted things like, "Why do you hang out with us? We all hate you. And why do you keep coming back when you just get bullied?" He then went on about my exclusion and other matters, but I cannot recall the rest. He ended up slapping me and saying other hurtful things. I took an Uber home, wrote down what I remembered from that night so I would not forget, and went to bed, but not before messaging him to ask why he treated me harshly that night. I wanted to give him a chance to apologize, but I woke up to a message saying, "I do not remember what happened, but what I said was the truth." This guy was my best friend for around 3 years. We got along very well and had virtually never had any issues before this. One of the other guys filmed the entire altercation and sent it to the group chat they have. One of the girls responded, laughing, asking what I had done to make him angry, as if I had instigated the entire situation and it was a regular occurrence. I know this because the guy next to me was on his phone and I caught a glimpse of the chat. Regarding what he said, I do not genuinely get bullied by these guys. Sure, I have felt left out before, but now I mostly attend everything even if I do not get involved in planning. In person, we get along well. It feels a bit strange over the past few months, at least from my perspective, but I try to ignore it. There have been times when I show up and one of the girls will say something like, "Oh, my name's you came too," or, "Oh, I did not know you were coming." We never argue or have any issues unless someone has consumed too much alcohol. They always seem pleased to see me when I arrive at events. At school, we exchange greetings in the halls, but I stopped sitting with them at lunch back in January. Now with the school year coming to an end and my friendships with all of them drawing to a close as well, I decided to inquire about the group chat to understand what it is about. I asked a good friend of mine, whom I have known my entire life and who has also not participated in any of this but has been passively involved, what the group chat entailed. I trust this guy, and he is one of the 2 people in this entire group with whom I intend to keep in touch after high school. He claimed he had no knowledge of the group chat and that it does not exist, asserting that they would not do that to me and saying that I was overthinking things. I asked another guy and he also claimed to not be aware of it, insisting that it does not exist and there would be no reason for it. 2 other people echoed this sentiment. I know these guys are all in on it. I just want to know why I am excluded and what goes on in it. That last part occurred last night. I am seeking advice on how to endure this situation. I have not done anything to anyone in this group. I drive them around when they cannot drive. I talk to them at school. I used to check in on them. Currently, I despise this situation. It feels strange knowing they have a group chat without me, especially one with my name in the title. Do they feel guilty? They must realize by now that I know about this. I feel as though these people simply do not take me seriously, and it makes me incredibly bitter. I have approximately 2 months left with these individuals. I would like advice on how to make it through these final months. It feels uncomfortable being with people who engage in activities without me. I essentially have to pretend to be friends with these guys, which I cannot tolerate. However, outside of this group, very little happens. No one does anything, and I am somewhat of an extrovert, so I need to have people around me. It is manageable in person, as I have mentioned, but I just feel odd. If I attempt to resolve my issues by asking individuals about how to fix my purported problems with the group or what I did to cause them, they either shut down or respond with something along the lines of not being sure what the problem is or not noticing any issue. Since someone is likely to suggest I stop hanging out with these people, I genuinely cannot do that. Some of my best friends are in this group, so I cannot leave. I have also invested 4 years into these relationships. Furthermore, no one outside this group engages in activities. I would just be stuck at home. Recently, this has significantly impacted my self-esteem. I am starting to doubt myself, overanalyzing anything I do in a social setting to see if I am being awkward, and worrying about my future in college, particularly if this situation might recur. I genuinely need advice on how to survive the next few months. How do I get along with this group? How do I ignore their apparent issues with me? I have never wronged these individuals, and when I ask what happened, they dismiss it as if they also do not know. I apologize for venting. I just need help in this situation. Thank you for taking the time to read all of this. In summary, my friends have been treating me poorly for the past 5 months, and I am uncertain how to proceed and make amends with them. Story 3. Von der Jeffengenschaft zur Freiheit was ich mit 30 aus dem Rollenspiel Gothic über Beziehungen lernt. Sicherheit und Stillstand ne und Selbstverständlichkeit. In einer Welt der Allnet Flatrates ist der wahre Wort I am Worden zu finden. Wie entkomm ich dem Marvin Modus? Einleitung. Is gibt Spiel die Meier sind als bloßer Zeitvertreib. Sie fordern uns, lehren uns Geduld, bringen uns Rückschläge und zeigen uns, was es heißt zu wachsen. Gothic ist eins dieser Spiel. Als das Rollenspiel zu Beginn der 2000er Jahre erschien, war Isro sperrig technisch nicht perfekt und Word trotzdem oder gerät deshalb zum Kult. Man beginnt ein Tutorial und eine Anleitung. Die Welt ist jeffihelig und unbarmherzig aber auch lebendig. Der eigen Charakter ist schwach, unbeholfen und von Anfängen unterlegen. Genau das macht Gothic zu einem Erlebnis das im Gedächtnis bleibt. Im Jahr 2025 kehrt das Spiel als Remake zurück. Es erhält ein modernes Juen für ein Alt-Gesicht. Doch während wir über Grafik, Kampfsystem und Engine diskutieren, lohnt es sich, einen anderen Blick zu wagen, was leiht uns Gothic eigentlich über das Leben, über das Streben, über Beziehungen, vielleicht sogar über die. Je länger ich über dieses Spiel nachdenke, desto klarer wird mir, Gothic ist nicht nur eine Abentur, es ist ein Metaphor. Für Entwicklung, für Verbindung und für das, was verloren geht, wenn wir versuchen, den Musemen Teil zu überspringen. Kapitel 1 Die Welt von Gothic ein Ros erweschen. Du wirst in ein Strafkolonie dürfen. On Ausrüstung, on Freund und on Orientierung. Die ersten Stunden im Spiel sind hart, plunderer zerlegendig. Molretzi fugen dir Lebenspunkt zu. Und wenn du einem Schattenläufer zu früh beginnest, siehst du den Leidbildschirm schneller als dir lieb ist. Du bist schwach, verletzlich und ständig in Gefahr und trotzdem machst du weiter. Du lernst. Du kämpfst dich durch. Du findest erst verbundet erlernst nu Fähigkeiten besser zu zielen zu blocken und zu verhindern. Irgendwann besiegst du den ersten Gegner, der dich zu Beginn mit einem Schlag het niederstrecken können. Und du empfindest etwas, das kein modernes Erfolgssymbol ersetzen kann, Stalls. Denn du weißt, dass du das Heirer nicht geschenkt bekommen hast, sondern dir erarbeitet. Das Spiel belohnt nicht Schnelligkeit, sondern Ausdauer, nicht Effizienz, sondern Hingabe. Je länger du spielst, desto mehr identifizierst du dich mit deinem Charakter. Nicht, weil mächtig ist, sondern weil du verstehst, was hinter seiner steckt, mu scheitern und wachstum. Kapitel 2 Der Marvin Modus der groß Betrug. Aber es gibt noch etwas, den sogenannten Marvin Modus. Ein integrierter Debug-Modus der Entwickler, der über ein Tasten-Kombination aktiviert wird. Wer ein nutzt, kann durch Wind fliegen, sich unbesiegbar machen und jeden Gegenstand herbezaubern. Alle Fähigkeit, sofort auf Maximum, jed waff, einfach ins Inventor teleportieren. Man wird gewissermaßen zum Gott in einer Welt, in der man einst Überleben kämpfen muss. Und genau das ist das Problem. Denn sobald du diesen Modus aktivierst, geschieht etwas Unvermeidliches, die Welt verliert ihr Tief. Kämpfe sind bedeutungslos, Dialog werden irrelevant. Entscheidungen sind ohne Risiko. Du spielst zwar noch, aber du erlebst nichts mehr. Weil das Spiel dich nicht mehr herausfordert, weil nichts mehr auf dem Spiel steht. Plötzlich spürst du, der Ries war nicht die Macht, sondern der Weg dorthin. Kapitel 3 Vom Spiel ins Leben und in die Beziehung. Was hat das aber mit dem echten Leben zu tun? Mehr als man denkt. Denn wir leben heute in einer Welt, in der viel sofort verfügbar ist. Wir können als im Internet nachschlagen, als bestellen und als streamen. Auch in Beziehungen geht viel schneller, Dating-Anwendungen, Matching-Algorithmen und ständig Erreichbarkeit. Mit der Zeit etabliert sich oft unbemerkt ein new Erwartungshaltung, das Verbindung immer vorhanden sein muss. Jederzeit verfügbar, wie ein Flatrate. Kapitel 4 Die Flatrate der Beziehungen bequem, aber leer. Was in der Kommunikation praktisch ist, wird in Beziehungen zur Gefahr, wenn man glaubt, der andere sei immer einfachste, ohne Gegenleistung, ohne Herausforderung. Man hat sich einmal füreinander entschieden, warum also noch investieren. Viel privat oder geschäftlich Beziehungen geraten genau in dies Fall. Der Ries des Anfangs des gemeinsamen Erkunden, des Ringen und des Staunen weicht einer trägen Routine. Man hat sich und hört auf sich zu erobern. Die Beziehung wird zur Flatrate, als inklusiv jederzeit erreichbar, aber ohne Reibung, ohne Abentur und ohne Spiel. Doch genau wie im Marvin Modus ist den Heirer auch die Magi verschwunden. Man funktioniert noch, aber man erlebt nichts mehr. Kapitel 5, die Beziehung als Rollenspiel ein neues Verständnis. Was wäre, wenn wir unser Beziehungen wieder als Abentur begreifen würden? Als Welt, in der es etwas zu entdecken gibt und in der es Sinn ergibt, sich zu entwickeln. Dan würden wir nicht erwarten, dass als von selbst geschieht. Sondern uns bewusst einbringen. Nu Fragen stellen, den anderen überraschen, zu hören auch wenn wir glauben, skan als zu wissen. Nicht uns anzustrengen, sondern weil es erfüllend ist, gemeinsam zu wachsen. So why in Gothic? Nicht der Level zählt, sondern der Weg dorthin. Nicht des Haben, sondern des Werden. Kapitel 6, sich immer wieder nu präsentieren die Kunst lebendiger Beziehungen. In Gothic musst du dich immer wieder beweisen. Willst du einer Gilde beitreten, du musst zeigen, dass du etwas kannst. Willst du jemandem etwas verkaufen oder lernen, dann übersuchen mit Worten und mit Tate. Dies Logik gilt auch im echten Leben. Nicht im manipulativen Sinn, sondern im respektvollen. Wer aufhört dem anderen zu zeigen, wer ist, wird irgendwann unsichtbar. Ein lebendige Beziehung lebt davon, dass man sich gegenseitig wahrnimmt, nu entdeckt, überrascht, herausfordert und unterstützt. Nicht aus Pflicht, sondern aus Neugier. Nicht weil etwas fehlt, sondern weil noch so viel möglich ist. Kapitel 7, Sicherheit und Spannung kein Widerspruch. Gothic wäre nicht dasselbe, wenn man ständig in Angst leben muss, aber ohne Risiko gibt es keinen Ries. Das ist die Kunst, ein Welt zu schaffen, in der man sich sicher fühlt, aber nicht sad. In der man sich fallen lassen kann, aber trotzdem News erlebt. In der Vertrauen die Basis ist und Entwicklung des Ziel. Ob beruflich, privat oder partnerschaftlich, jede Beziehung lebt von dieser Balance. Sicherheit und Stillstand, nach und Selbstverständlichkeit, hingebe und Automatismus. Fazit des Spiel des Lebens warum der Weg zählt. Gothic zeigt uns, why erfüllend es sein kann, sich etwas zu erarbeiten. Why Wertval Rückschläge sind. Why tief man mit einer Welt oder einem Menschen verbunden sein kann, wenn man den Weg dorthin bewusst geht. Der Marvin-Modus ist ein Versachung. I am Spiel. I am Lebens. In jeder Art von Beziehung. Aber ist auch ein Trugschluss. Den wer all sofort bekommt, hat nichts mehr, worüber sich wirklich freuen kann. Der wahre Wert liegt nicht im Haben. Sondern im Werden. Vielleicht erinnert uns Gerard dieses Raw, Altspiel daran, ein Verbindung nicht als Flatrate zu führen, sondern als Exabentur. Story 4. Best friend turned stepbrother stole my girlfriend and I became the enemy. You don't belong here, he yelled as I revealed our past. 7 years later my family is fractured and holidays are a reminder of my betrayal. Can friendships survive such chaos? This is a throwaway account because God forbid this ever gets back to me. I am currently a 24-year-old male. This entire soap opera unfolded when I was 18. Before I proceed, some context is necessary. My best friend and I have been inseparable since childhood, despite living in towns that are a short distance apart. Outside of our biweekly playdates where my mother would drive the 15 minutes to the next town, our main source of bonding was through online video games. We would wake up a few hours before school began just to play games together. We were always there for one another. When I was in middle school, my parents divorced, and a couple of years later, my mother began dating my best friend's father, who had recently separated from his wife. This created a mix of feelings because I believe everyone's dream is for their best friend to become family, but my family dynamic is very volatile, so I was concerned it might ruin our relationship. A year or so later, they married and my best friend, his father, my now stepfather, and his brother, my now stepbrother, moved in with us. I would say that this move marked the beginning of the end for everything. This brings us to my final year of high school. I apologize, but I must mention one more thing. This was a darker period in my life. I was struggling with depression, abandonment issues, and felt anger towards the world and my family for the unhealthy amount of trauma inflicted on me during my childhood. I want to emphasize that at this time in my life, I was not a good person. I directed my hatred at others. I recognize the damage I caused, and have since dedicated my entire adulthood to repairing that damage and healing where possible. So it is the final semester of high school. At this point, I had completely given up. I was neglecting school, fully aware that I was going to fail out. There was a girl in my class whom I will refer to as X. I was always aware that X liked me, but I did not share the same feelings toward her. I had just broken up with my girlfriend when X and I began having casual sex. I also want to acknowledge that during this time I was the jerk. I knew X had feelings for me, and I took advantage of those feelings merely for sex. There is no way I can atone for that. The fact that I acted as such a fool will haunt me for the rest of my life. This continued throughout the semester. One day I was in the kitchen and glanced out the window into my backyard where I saw X just as I was about to check on her. My stepbrother, who was 24 at the time, joined her and they began hanging out. Apparently they encountered each other while both walking their dogs. My stepbrother recognized X from when she visited my house once. They bonded over their dogs and their friendship began. I spoke to my stepbrother about it and he claimed it was nothing. I found it extremely uncomfortable but continued my arrangements with X for about a week until they went on their first date. One last note, I do not believe that X cheated on me with my stepbrother. Our relationship was purely physical, so she had the right to end things with me and pursue whomever she wanted. Unfortunately, she decided to pursue my stepbrother. When this happened, there was no conversation between me and X about it, it just occurred. My stepbrother did not know about my relationship with X. Their relationship was not my business, so I left it to her to inform him, which she never did. For a couple of weeks, this uncomfortable situation persisted, with X completely stopping communication with me while spending a great deal of time at my house. By a lot, I mean she would arrive immediately after school and stay until around 2 in the morning. As the weeks passed, I grew increasingly uncomfortable, and one night I crossed a line by asking both of them about their relationship. The next morning, my stepbrother came into my room and politely informed me that their relationship was none of my business and that probing into it was inappropriate, which was fair. I then turned to a mutual friend of X's and mine and confided in her that having X around until 2 in the morning made me uncomfortable. I was also worried that she had not disclosed our past to my stepbrother, which seemed essential for him to know. Unfortunately, this conversation did not remain private, and X found out that I was uncomfortable with her relationship with my stepbrother, which she relayed to him. When I got home that day, my stepbrother was waiting for me. He proceeded to yell at me about keeping my nose out of his affairs and cursed at me in front of my 12-year-old sister. At this point, all chaos broke loose. I revealed that X and I had previously been intimate, causing a divide in the household. My mother defended me, stating that she did not want X around our house anymore, while my stepfather defended my stepbrother. What infuriates me is not just that my stepbrother knew about my history with X and chose to date her anyway, which is gross, don't get me wrong, but that he never once approached me to discuss it. From that moment on, he completely ignored me. To this day, I do not think we have had a real conversation since. Amidst all this turmoil was my best friend. As he was my only friend, I frequently complained to him about how wrong my stepbrother was. I would call him names and express how disgusting I believed his actions to be. It seems that his brother was doing the same thing. I now realize this was wrong. I put my friend in a position where he felt he had to choose between me and his brother, but I was too consumed by anger to acknowledge that this was damaging our friendship. It all came to a head when my stepfather approached me, explaining the pain my actions were causing him. My best friend was cornered, being told from both sides to choose between us. We had been drifting apart since the marriage. We were evolving into different people, no longer the same kids we used to be, so I did what my stepbrother failed to do. I spoke to him about it, about us and our friendship. I offered him a way out. I apologized for my remarks about his brother and suggested we could simply remain as stepbrothers rather than friends. He agreed. X and my stepbrother continued to date, and certain rules were established stating that she was not allowed to spend the night, which was the most my mother could enforce, and I appreciated that. Since then, it has been nothing but the cold shoulder from my stepbrother and my best friend. I do not think we ever really communicated again. My stepbrother resented me. He disliked that I was obstructing his relationship and that because of me he could not spend the night with her. I would hear them leave the house late at night, sometimes as late as 4 a.m., lamenting how ridiculous it was that she could not stay over. My new refuge became my bedroom. I hardly ever ventured out until my stepbrother and X moved out together a year later. I simply did not feel safe anymore. Now 7 years have passed. The family never fully healed. No one ever truly discussed it. My stepbrother and X dated for about 3 years before they broke up. My best friend and my stepbrother avoid me during the holidays as if I have the plague. My stepfather tried his best to remain neutral, but I have always sensed that he harbored some resentment toward me as well. I was the villain in this narrative, and I acknowledge that I am the jerk for various reasons. I genuinely wish I had made countless different choices.